What is going on, everybody? Welcome into Garage Life here, and I'm in the garage. I got my team not one pack hashtag team not one pack shirt from RC Guy Garage hanging over the toolbox over here. And today in this video, I'm gonna take the new Traxxas Maxx and I'm gonna do some changes on the shocks. I don't like the shocks right out of the box, so I'm going to change them up a little bit. And we're going to do that, and I'm going to bring you guys along for the ride. So let me get you sat down here. Let's just sit you down. We'll kind of point you at the truck here. Sit you down there. And I already got the shocks taken off of the truck. So we are going to, first of all, we're going to put some, we're going to drain the oil out here. I'm going to put 80 weight all the way around. Tends to be a preference for me and bashers. And then I'm going to put M2C Racing pistons in the shocks. And then I'm going to put VG Racing springs on the shocks. So I did one just to make sure everything fits up correctly. Make sure that these pistons go on here correct. And so I got the white M2C piston. And these are the Arma 6S line series pistons. White goes in the front, black goes in the back. So we got a white one here. So let's just do the other white one to make the other second front shock. Now these shocks are realistically the same all the way around. So it doesn't really matter how I took them off. I should be changing the shock caps while I'm at it, but I'm not. So I have this little container here that I dump out all my used oil into just so I can have a steady place to keep it. The government kind of, well, maybe it's not the government. People, I'm just gonna say people because I really don't know what I should say. They don't like when you throw oils and stuff like that in the garbage. It's got to be disposed of properly. So I try to do my best to just keep my stuff, my oils and things like that, disposed of properly. Try to be the good citizen that I should be. So I take a picked it up at Harbor Freight for super cheap. I got the nut off of the shaft here. So I'm just going to take this pick and pull my piston out that's in there. Being careful not to hit the side of the shock or the shaft because you don't want to bend any of that or scratch any of that, sorry. You don't want to scratch that. Pull the shock shaft out. Sometimes these things are such a pain to get out of here. And sometimes they're not. Alright, got it. There was a washer on the bottom of the piston. I gotta make sure to put that back in. And I just kind of go clean this up just a tad. You don't want any of this gunk going into the shock. Put my paper towel in there and just kind of clean it. Now these shocks, they're newer. I mean, this truck's only been ran like 3 or 4 times. Nothing too major, so the shock oil is clean. Everything's fine. I just don't really tend to like Traxxas's stock setup. So here you see the package from M2C Racing. Got a white piston, it's got a black O-ring that goes around the edges, the beveled edges. And then there's holes on one side, and then the other side there's holes, some number print, and then you also see some like rectangles, and that creates some friction going down. So you always want to put the rectangles and the numbers facing down. And then you try to grab your washer, put that on the threads as easy as you can. It's hard to show all this. And then piston going with the numbers and rectangles going down. Throw our nut back on here. Tighten it up. There we are. Make sure everything moves smooth. There's the second one done. Off to the third. My caps are on loose enough that I can get them off by hand. If you can't, grab your shock tool. If you don't have a shock tool, grab a rag and a pair of pliers. One of the best sounds in the world. I don't know why I like that sound, I just think it's fun. It's a fun sound. Probably because I'm a guy and it kind of sounds like a fart, so I find that funny. If you don't find farts funny, I mean, come on. Alright. Enough fart conversation. We're on to shock 3. We're on to shock number 3. Careful pulling that out. Then we'll go right into the middle hole of the piston. Sometimes I find it easier than even using a pick to use a little 1.5 millimeter Allen wrench, get in the middle, just pull it out. I don't know why that's easier sometimes. Now my washer is still in here, so I'm going to have to get my washer out. That's going to be a little tricky, but definitely doable. You'll see you could grab anything kind of long and skinny that'll fit in there and pull it out, or your paper towel, because my paper towel just pulled it out. If that didn't work, I would have grabbed, I have a little magnet, like this little guy. These things come in handy when you need to pick up your a drop screw or something like that. It just magnets it right up. Yeah. Again, Harbor Freight has those. So I tend to pick up some of the cheaper stuff that I don't really care too much about quality at Harbor Freight. Other than that, I don't have a Home Depot in our town, so I order a lot online because people in my town don't tend to carry Milwaukee, which is my preferred brand. Through the years, I found that their stuff is quality and lasts and has a lot of power. This is not a Milwaukee plug. If you're not a Milwaukee person, just tends to be my preference, but I think you'll tend to see you hang out with me long enough. Alright, so here we are. My camera keeps overheating, but the suspension feels a lot more plush with this completed M2C piston job on here. So now I guess it's just time to get out there and try it out. So I'm going to head out, try it out in the cold, see how these new shocks work. I can guarantee they're going to be better than normal. So thank you for watching this. Please subscribe, hit the thumbs up. More content coming soon. Trying to make more videos on the daily. So thank you for checking this out and being a part of Garage Life RC. Hope to see you soon. Have a fantastic rest of your day. That I like that color red, and blue is my other color. So I have a lot of navy blue, red, black, and it tends to be the colors that I go for all around. I don't know why, just like them. I don't know if we can ever explain the reasonings why we do certain things. the way we do them, just because maybe that way just works for us. Maybe that's the way we've just always done it. Maybe that's just the way we were wired from a kid. It's probably some subliminal type things that tend to be that way. I don't know. Nor do I really care why we do certain things a certain way. If it works for you, do it. As long as it's legal. Alright. That time the washer came out with the piston. Let's get some of this old oil out of here. So if you were gonna change like to two different oils, so oil on the front, oil on the rear, obviously you'd want to be paying more attention to which shocks are which. I'm not. I'm putting 80 all the way around. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have a recommendation from somebody. Somebody recommended to me on the Max to go 80 all the way around. I have 80 sitting here, so I'm gonna put it in just because that's what somebody recommended for me to do. I would say, me personally, if I didn't have a recommendation on a weight to go with, probably would have done 60 in the front, 70 in the rear as a baseline, but and 80 could be too thick for this time of year. And maybe even with these M2C pistons. But yeah, that's the fun part about this. You go try it out. If it's too much, you can always change it up. Make sure the O-ring's sitting here nice, the washer's on, making sure that I'm putting the correct side down. Put the nut back on. Then we'll be ready to mount these, fill these with oil. Alright, so we got 2 front, 2 back, ready to be filled up with some oil. Now let's see if I have enough 80 weight around here. I think I do. So I am going to pull my vise over here. I don't have my vise mounted down, and you know what? It actually kind of works on things like this. So we'll go 2 front, 2 rear. I just open up the vise big enough for it to sit, the collars to sit down in here. I got some TLR 80 weight. If I don't have enough, I'll run to my hobby shop and get more. But I think I'm going to have enough for these shocks. Now if it was a 5th scale, definitely wouldn't have enough. But I think I'll have just enough to do these 4. And I'm starting to run out, so I'm going slower because I don't want to pump a bunch of air into it. Fill them up pretty close to the top. They're going to leak most likely when I put the bladder in. I would like a bladderless, more emulsion style, but I'll have to let that get those caps. I don't have those caps right now. And I just pump the shock up and down a few times slowly so you don't spill oil everywhere. And I kind of turn it as I'm doing it, so any air that might be in there gets worked out, and you'll see a bunch of little bubbles coming up. Get all the bubbles out. I've always liked these M2C pistons. I think they have pretty good size. they've always been good for me. I've never had to replace any or anything like that. They've always held up strong. Seem to have a good suspension the way I like it. So we're on the wide max here, putting a little bit more thicker oil in here, different springs. And these springs are variable rate springs. So they work really good on like a monster truck basher, in my opinion. And they sell them for a lot of the Traxxas vehicles. I have them on my Max, my X-Maxx, my Revo, my Rustler. Pretty much all the Traxxas vehicles that I have the M2C Racing. I wish they'd make them for other ones, but I haven't even measured. I bet like these might even fit on like a Creighton. No, they're too wide. Length is probably okay. Maybe a little long, but they're definitely, diameter's too big. So I let these sit a little bit to let all these air bubbles kind of work themselves up to the top. I did change the servo in here. Felt like it was a little underpowered. I have a Max 8 on the way to replace the ESC. That'll probably be here tomorrow. So I'll be able to put a Max 8 in here. And then I do have some other tires. I'm going to keep running these for a little bit, but I'm going to throw the backflip LPs on here. I tend to like the backflips, and I like the low profile of them, of the LPs. So I'll probably end up throwing those on here at some point too, but I want to keep running these a little bit, see how they wear and hold up over time. I'm testing a servo company that I found that makes some servos for a really good price. So it seems to have a lot of torque and power. I kind of want to see how it holds up over some runtime, a little bit of extended period. I've never used it before. I've had it for a little bit. Finally found something I can go in, and so putting it in here. I'm gonna run that to, I got the aluminum servo arm. I had to cut it down because when you throw a normal size servo in here and then you want to get an aluminum servo arm, you have to kind of manipulate a little bit because the chassis brace, the front brace is so low to the servo that if you don't have a short stubby servo horn, you have to kind of chop it down. So I did that, but all seems to be good now, and it's got a lot of torque, and so I'm pretty happy with it. It's been on one drive with that new servo, and I was pretty happy. So, all right, now I think bubbles have kind of floated to the top and got out enough. Shocks are just about all the way full, so I'm going to put the bladders back in. I tend to slide them from one side to the other right across the top, just so you're not trapping any more air in there than that's already in there. We're going to twist the cap on. It's going to leak out some oil, and this is a rear shock, so I need to keep that in mind because I won't really be able to tell which is which once these all get on. So twist the cap on. There is a little hole in it if there is going to be some bleeding coming out. There'll be a little bit of goo, but I don't see any coming. I just pump the shock a couple times once this is on there. And I'll always kind of loosen it up a little bit. And with the bladder in here, you're going to have a little bit of this rebound from the shock. I can try to work it out a little bit more. See, there we go, we got some goo coming now. My camera decided to get too hot, so I'm back with the last shock here, and I figured out a couple little things to make this better and easier. Take your cap, wherever my cap might be, and these do have a little vent hole in them. You can't take the bladder out, otherwise all your stuff's going to leak out, so you gotta still leave the bladder in, but to get as close to the emulsion style as you can, just kind of snug this down. I wouldn't even go tight. Not even like, I wouldn't even tighten it up. It was like as soon as you feel it hit, like that, you're gonna squeeze, put your shock in, you're gonna start seeing oil coming out of the hole. If it doesn't, that's okay. Put your shock shaft all the way down. I'm gonna loosen it up just a tad to see if any oil, there we go. Now the oil starts oozing out. And then I'm gonna tighten up the cap while holding the shock shaft in so any excess will come out. And we still got a little bit of rebound. I'm going to open up the cap a little bit again. There we go. Oh, there's a bunch of oil that kind of gooed out. And I'll push the shock shaft back in. Whatever oil is going to ooze out here can ooze out. We're done oozing. Shock shaft all the way in. Start turning it tight. It's going to ooze. More oozing. And we are tight, so I should be able to do that with no rebound, and that's going to be acceptable for the setup that we possibly have. And this will give me as close to an emulsion style as I can without a cap that has a vent and a screw just to close the vent. Put our springs back on, and now we're just putting these spring retainer on the bottom. This is the front. Here's my other front. Put the screw in. Then we'll be ready to button it back up on the truck. Okay, so we got two fronts. Let's put this one in here. Pop it in up here. And this should give us quite a bit better suspension than where we were at. You got your long screws that go up top, short screws that go in the A-arm down here. Let's give these a snug down. Long one up in here. Short one down the A-arm. You know what really bothers me? I don't like having no spares around. And I haven't seen yet. I'm hoping it's coming. I've heard it's coming. I haven't seen it though with my own two eyes. The wide kit available as like one arm here and there. Flipping it around to do the back, and I've heard it's there, but I haven't found it yet. But I haven't really looked too hard. I mean, I could just buy a whole wide kit so I have a spare of each one, which, I mean, it's definitely an option. Not a bad one either. And I hate these things. I would rather have pins instead of screws in here, but that's just me. Long one here. one on the bottom. I'll have to adjust my spring tension probably, but I kind of like to leave it almost like, I don't want to say as high as I can, but I don't want to tighten it down yet, because then that gives me some adjustability while I'm out driving. So if I feel like the suspension needs to be stiffer, I can stiffen up the spring with the collar. And I like being able to have that option. If I were to stiffen it up all the way now, the only thing I could do is make my suspension softer. And I don't think with 80 weight that I'm gonna need to make it tighter, probably. Don't know that. Alright, so here we are. My camera keeps overheating, but the suspension feels a lot more plush with this completed M2C piston job on here. So now I guess it's just time to get out there and try it out. So I'm gonna head out, try it out in the cold, see how these new shocks work. I can guarantee they're gonna be better than normal. So thank you for watching this. Please subscribe, hit the thumbs up. More content coming soon. Trying to make more videos on the daily. So thank you for checking this out and being a part of Garage Life RC. Hope to see you soon. Have a fantastic rest of your day.